I'm here at the hotel lobby of Hotel Nika, San Francisco. Yesterday was the last day of the event of the engineer. I'm here with my brother Miguel Alvarado from Sondomine.
Correct.
And Miguel, you asked me a question. Do you mind repeating the question?
Yeah. So the question was, what were your key takeaways? What were the highlights?
Yeah. And I answered with, it was a confluence of contrasts for me. And the reason I decided to record this is maybe this will be the intro to the podcast, or maybe this will be just like a transcription for me to draw from.
It'll be fun nonetheless.
It will be fun nonetheless, absolutely. And so I think the biggest contrast was talked about on stage, was deeply personal for me as well. A contrast of future and past. So Israel was attacked brutally just before we came to this event. And there were quite a few Israelis here among the speakers. Myself, my mom lives very close to the border. And many folks who participate in this industry are also Israel. And so I think the first person who said something on stage was Dedi Credo from Codium.
Correct.
Who did this amazing demo of this amazing AI-based product that writes tests for you, basically that shows you the future. And he ends this piece with like, hey, it's very important to say that, probably something like 9 or 15 9/11s in terms of like proportional to population number of deaths in the terror attack happened to Israel. And it's really hard to contrast this with how we're building the future. We're all excited about this. We're all positive about this. While his co-founder, Itamar, was actually sending him pictures of his rifle because it was called to reserve duty to protect the country. And so there was literally a picture on stage with the laptop open, with, lines going up and to the right, with like AI and growing and everything with excitement. And there was a gun behind this to protect the country from the past. And different things that just hold on to the past and are refusing to let go. And it was a very stark contrast for all of us Israelis here. Everyone who met any other Israeli, we first asked, are you okay? Is your family okay? Is your friend okay? Like this was the first thing before we started talking about AI.
Mm-hmm.
And even the switch to talk about AI was not that easy on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's hurting. Our families are hurting. It's shocking. Many people are still in shock. There's a huge amount of death, destruction, but there's also a quite incredibly large amount of kidnap live citizens, and so everybody's worried about them as well. While we're here in San Francisco, 5,000 miles away, talking about the future. So there's a stark contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And
I found it very impactful when the presenter showed that photo. It just put everything in perspective in like a split second. The feeling that I got was a feeling of gratitude for knowing that my family is okay, knowing that I'm okay. It was gratitude along with hope for the people that are over there and are suffering. So hope and gratitude are two things that I felt when I saw that.
I had a chance to talk with some of the speakers the night before, some of them Israeli, and the framework that I operate with and I shared, and I'd like to also record as well. One can be compassionate without being empathetic, because it's incredibly hard to continue feeling like a human after seeing so much hate and destruction and death. And there's only so much a person can take. And so in that vein, compassion towards the victims, compassion to their families, compassion towards even the innocent people on the other side who are sitting under this terror, basically rule, and are also suffering from this. Will suffer more from this, like all this thing. Compassion can be felt.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy is much more difficult because empathy means you take on yourself all this hate, all this sorrow, all this sadness. And I see people spiral out because of this towards hate backwards, towards pushing back. And I shared with some folks, I was like, hey, we can be compassionate without being empathetic, and it's okay. And also, we got to fill our own cups first.
Mm-hmm.
Here, this is part of it. We're here to build the future. And so this was a very stark contrast for him.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hear about the second contrast?
Yes, I do. I'm waiting.
the second contrast was between past and future, but in a different context, in a technological context. So I came to this event as a media person, and they asked me to interview a bunch of folks. And so that's what I did. I had a blast doing this. I had microphones, and they actually taught me a new concept called run and gun. Run and gun is where you, it sounds militant, but it's not. It's when you have a microphone, you as an interviewer, have somebody with a camera following you, like a camera crew.
Okay.
So grab people and like, hey, let's talk about this and that. And so I was teamed up. I was given a camera person. Her name was Stacy, and she is not in our field at all. She's not into AI. She doesn't use AI tools too much. And during the process of me interviewing folks, she kind of started like listening what they're asking, what they're saying, and we just got to talk in the middle of it. She's a wonderful person, and I asked her a few questions in between, and the contrast between here's everyone who is up to date with the latest and greatest in AI, with the cutting edge, with like all the tools that they move, and like they're open to getting more tools into the workflow and building the future. And I'm hand in hand with somebody who's almost afraid of the future. But one example was there was a Waymo car driving down the road. Waymo is this driverless vehicles in San Francisco, and I asked Stacy, and you really want? She's like, no, let's go. I would like to try it. So I asked somebody for a call, and she's like, no, I'm not afraid.
Really?
So I really had to ask
Interesting.
her, like, what are you afraid of? And to me, spending most of my conference with Stacy, talking with her about the future that everybody else is building, put me in a contrast versus everybody's running forward, but we have to remain compassionate to the folks who are not as up to date, not as open, not as maybe familiar with the changes.
Sure.
And it was great as a grounding experience to just walk with Stacy.
Yeah.
Because I was literally like almost holding her by the hand through this like new and exciting developments, but also taking her into account that like for her, it's maybe too much of a change too fast.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that this change happens in a very
progressive way,
iterative
way,
allow for them, for folks like Stacy and other folks like this to grow and without fear.
Yeah.
And basically very important to present this without fear, to present this as a good thing that's happening anyway. Why we might as well enjoy it. We'll just understand it.
No, that's actually that. I love that last part because as I was thinking about the things that we're doing at work, so as you know, I'm in a mental health company, and our vision is to create an AI mental health coach. The issue, the biggest blocker that we're facing is not technological. It's actually people accepting that it's okay to use an AI coach in addition to your therapist. Even therapists themselves need to get comfortable with the idea that there could be an AI coach in the middle, helping out. There is a really good paper that a few folks from Stanford published about 5 months ago that talks about sort of like the roadmap for AI to be used in psychotherapy. And what they suggest, and I resonate with this roadmap pretty well, which is starting with very simple, like administrative use cases. Very simple, like, hey, I'm going to give you assistance on these administrative tasks. And maybe the assistant can help you schedule a session or reschedule your therapy session, stuff like that, just to get people comfortable. But the end goal is maybe in a couple of years, then you have the full-fledged AI health coach that's helping you with your mental health.
Absolutely. And I'd love to hear more about some of mine after this.
Yeah.
Contrast number 3, and we'll finish here, was spiritual versus technology. So we've connected over seeing each other wearing mile bracelets, right?
Which was amazing, by the way. I love that. I love that.
This is a good reason to continue wearing those.
Exactly.
And we also joined another brother, Carlo. We all three taught with each other. And I honestly have shared my path and the gift that I was living with multiple folks here, just because we somehow got there. Because they maybe saw the peace. They maybe saw like multiple things like this. And I'm going through significant life changes right now, career changes, personal changes, and spiritual changes, obviously. And I'm just I feel very okay with all that, which is, I think, people see. And so I had a conversation with many of those. I also had conversations with some dubious individuals here. It wasn't a lot. There was one person who I felt really intense talking to.
Interesting.
But putting him aside, the whole conference is focused on technology, specific technology that's run forward is built. And I love the fact that folks like you, folks like Ian, folks like, we met a few more folks in the, we talked to, remind me of his name if you remember, somebody with the therapy, with light therapy.
Oh my God.
Yes. We've talked with a person who basically set us.
That's amazing, by the way.
Through a light therapy, LED type thing. And he basically decided to build it. And he built it online. And now he says that his platform is used by like 15,000 practitioners of this specific technology. And I absolutely love this because I think this is the contrast that shouldn't be a contrast. So this last thing between spiritual and technological, I strongly believe that given that I was very technological oriented, very agnostic for most of my life, and just recently decided to start my spiritual path and open up, I think that this should not be a contrast. So this last one, while the previous ones we should help, obviously, to bridge the divide, this spiritual and technological should not be a contrast. And so, Miguel, my brother, I'm very happy that you're also participating in the bridging of this specific contrast of the spiritual and technological.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was an unexpected part for me, meeting somebody like you in the way that we met, and then meeting Carlo. And then it was pretty amazing. Carlo and I had a long discussion, like during the social time yesterday, like a whole hour conversation. And we were sharing things with each other. They were like, I can't believe we wouldn't have expected to share these things in this kind of setting like 2 years ago. So it's like we're all kind of in a certain journey that kind of is bringing us together for one reason or another.
And I think it should be expected.
Yeah.
I think it should happen more.
That's true.
And I think it's on us to keep showing people that it's okay.
I agree. I think it requires a little bit of vulnerability on our side, to just put ourselves out there. But once you do, you see that it's well received.
Absolutely.
People are excited about it too.
As people like us build the future, as people like us discover new tools outside of the human, I feel they're also looking inwards. Based on the connection that we make with people international. I see folks from Germany, I see folks from Argentina, I saw folks from Spain, and multicultural, multilingual connection here. And the connection is human.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Based on top of AI technologies, but the connection is human. And so this is the bridge, this is the contrast that we need to make sure is not accomplished in the next conferences. And now my conversation with Swix, the founder of AI Engineer, host of the Latent Space podcast, and a generally great dude about everything that we heard and seen on the stage of the AI Engineer. And just a reminder, all of the talks are recorded. All right, everyone, you're basically here to hear how the sausage is made. We're doing like a live mic check on the fly, while we're also coming to you from a very interesting location, actually, middle of the downtown San Francisco, Hotel Nico, who's a great place for this venue. I guess let's get going.
Let's get going.
So let's start here. How was the venue for you in this very beautiful event that we had?
I really liked the ability to co-locate the hotel and the conference, because that means that you don't have to go very far to go to the conference. And a lot of people came in from out of town. We had people coming in from Germany, from India, from Argentina. I think that's the furthest. There's one guy from New Zealand,
Wow,
which might be the furthest, but he was already in US for other stuff. That was good. I think it's a really nice sort of hotel location. I think maybe the difference is that it's not optimized for workshops. And when we tried to do workshops on the Monday, it didn't really go well because the Wi-Fi wasn't very good. I would maybe separate the workshop venues to something else. There's like a dedicated classroom setting, because that's much more suited for workshops. But other than that, it was great.
Awesome. So this is our first question. Well, almost like a mic check, a very brief vibe check from Flix. However, I want to just welcome everyone. We're here talking about AI Engineer event, the summit, AI Engineer Summit. It was a sold out 500 plus attendees event for AI Engineer. AI Engineer is this new concept that Swix, you've outlined in an essay on Latent Space Podcast. And many people who came here specifically told me that they're happy that there is a thing about this because they also felt something without boundaries necessarily. They didn't know where the boundaries begin between a software engineer and AI engineer. And I think this event was a important milestone to start figuring this out.
Yeah.
So how are you thinking about AI engineer? How were you thinking about AI engineer pre this event? And has this thinking changed after the event?
I curated all the talks. So it's very much my message to people that everyone speaking here is a leading AI engineer already and role models in some aspects. We have Hassan from Vercel, who no PhD, no years of AI engineering experience, but has built AI products that have millions of users. And then we have the sort of application and framework builders, the framework or tooling builders, like Harrison from LangChain and Jerry from Llama Index and Anton from Chroma and all the other guys. And then we also have like sort of the sort of experimental thinkers like the Amelia from Adept or Sam Whitmore and Jason Yuan from New Computer. So I just showcase all these people in their various diversity because I found that these people are doing the most interesting work in AI, but they're not being represented in conferences. And I want to give AI engineers some direction as to what are the areas you can explore. Yeah, it hasn't changed it totally, but I do think that what's changed for me is an understanding of how serious companies are. The kind of sponsors that showed up, Microsoft's all the way down to pretty new startups like Speakeasy as well. But the kind of sponsors that showed up, all of them are serious in hiring AI engineers, serving AI engineers, and just learning more about what they can do for them as well. It's really great. I think my bias is towards bottoms up, the individual developer, but there's a case to be made for AI engineers going into sort of the larger teams, larger enterprise, larger companies, which is why people like Superbase came and sponsored, even though they said they never sponsored conferences, because they were like, we want to have a foothold in this new industry.
I spoken with both Paul Koppel from Superbase and Ant Willison from Superbase.
Yeah.
And first of all, shout out Superbase. We love you guys. I personally use Superbase.
Yeah, one of the best talks at the conference.
And the talk that Paul gave was like also incredible. However, I had an interview with Paul and I asked him like, hey, why did you say yes to this? And his answer was basically, if Swix comes calling, then you don't say no.
He's being nice.
Yeah.
He has a lot to do.
Yeah. Incredible dude. And I think they also had a important role to play here because they're going towards basically allowing these tools for many AI engineers, and they have a holistic end-to-end thing. So I really enjoyed their specific talk. I want to dive deep with you for just a second about the curation part. So you said you created all the talks, and I remember you mentioning in some case, I think you asked about some people which types of talk they enjoyed, and they said these talks, and you're like, oh, so you're like on this part of the AI engineer. Could you walk me through the setup? Because I think you have chunks. Could you walk me through the chunks of the talks that you were like
chunks of talk?
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, I have to pull up the schedule now.
Yeah, no worries. Wait. Meanwhile, I'll say, guys, this is like not our typical space, Twitter space. We're sitting here mic'd up. So if you want to ask us questions, feel free to use the little messaging thing on the bottom right of the space, and just leave us questions there, and I will definitely ask Swix directly some of the preferred questions. But we will not be pulling folks up on this page. So please go ahead.
Yeah. So maybe I'll mention right at the start that I think that there are three main types of AI engineers. This is the stuff that I talked about in the keynote. One is the AI enhanced engineer, two is the AI product engineer, and then three is the AI engineer agents, which is not human. And there's people representing all three elements on stage. I think
Could you please repeat slower the three?
Yeah, AI enhanced, which is engineer using AI tools, but working on non-AI products. And then there's AI product engineer, which is engineer using AI APIs to build AI-enabled products for the end customer.
For the customer.
Right? That's the whole point of the product is the end customer. And then three is the product being the engineer, which is the AI, sort of automated AI engineer. And we didn't have that much in terms of agents. This was a little bit of a conscious bias because there's a lot of hype in San Francisco around AI agents. And we effectively had AutoGPT And then Codium had a really good demo.
Mhm.
So those kinds of things are starting to cross the bridge from AI enhanced engineering into full automation.
Mhm.
And so I think we'll see more of that over the next few months.
Yeah.
There's one I'm very excited about that will be speaking next year. I already have a list of people who will speak next year. So CodeGen AI is the one to keep look out for. J-Hack, if you've seen him on Twitter,
Oh, absolutely.
Mathematician. I've seen his demo. It's good. He's going to launch pretty soon. And we'll have him speak at the next one. I can go through the quick days. About 3 days of content. The first day actually wasn't supposed to be a content day. So this was the Sunday, October 8th.
Yeah.
We did AI Engineering 101 and Prompt Engineering and then 201.
Mhm.
And that was basically an introductory day for people who are completely new to AI engineering, because I always want our events to have a little bit of a, hey, you don't have to pretend to know everything. It's okay to not know things and ask basic questions like, what is clip? What is embeddings? What are tokens?
What is RAG?
It's RAG. Most of the time when people go to conferences, they try to show off. They try to talk about the cutting edge. And the speakers, right? The speakers are interested in showing off and showing their best. That means there's a lot of assumed knowledge. And so I think day one is just useful to give people some kind of level setting, some basic introduction. And we were very lucky. Every single speaker was volunteer.
Wow.
Because we didn't have money for this. When we put up the tickets and paid for, people paid for this full day of intros was not even on the schedule. I just felt like we needed it, so I organized a free event, and got a venue sponsor. Then Monday.
So day one workshop.
Day one workshops. Day two also workshops. So I called Sunday day zero.
Day zero.
And then Monday was day one. And day one was workshops in the morning and then talks in the afternoon, right? The morning workshops, we had everyone. We had AutoGPT teaching about AutoGPT Forge. We had Simon, the co-founder of Llama Index, talking about RAG.
Mm-hmm.
We had Justin Uberti from Fixie AI talking about AI JSX, also building an agent with them. Then we had a fairly hyped one, probably the busiest one was the LangChain workshop with Harrison. Greg Richardson from Superbase. This one was very, very well reviewed on PG Vector and shipping RAG applications in Postgres. And then finally, the part two of the AutoGPT workshop, which was about agent evals, which is extremely cutting edge. This is like, for the past 3 months in AI in San Francisco, there's been talk about nothing else except for agent evals.
How do we know that they work, basically, is the question.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was the morning workshop block. And mostly it's just hands on keyboard, clone code, write code, listen to the people who are working on the projects, explain and answer your questions in some way. Then we had the afternoon talks.
Oh no, just before you move on, I want to shout out the workshop givers. Yeah. Because we had slight issues with Wi-Fi.
Oh my.
But some of them just tethered from their phone, didn't phase them at all. I saw Simon, I saw Harrison. We just went through this and people downloaded it. It was fine.
Yeah.
And I just want to shout out for the resolve for this. It was great to see them just, you know what? Let's do it. We're all together. Worst case, I'll just show you some code. Shout out to Simon, shout out to Harrison, everybody who did this without fear.
Yeah. Greg as well.
Greg, yeah.
I was unsure about because some of these people, they've never given workshops. And I've in my career, I've given a few number of workshops, and it takes a lot out of you. And I was worried that I needed to give them more support, and I couldn't give them more support. But Greg really came through as the creator of PG Vector. Okay, then we went to the talks. I did my keynote, which was okay, I thought.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It's called the 1000x Engineer, and basically the idea came from Amjad.
Amjad Masad from Replit.
Amjad, CEO of Replit.
Yeah.
He actually did a podcast with the A16Z podcast, where he actually was only talking about productivity gains about 10x engineer, 100x engineer. And then Steph Smith, the host, was like, what about 1000x engineer? And then he actually never said the words 1000x, but then she went and put it as the title of the podcast. And I thought it was pretty cool. Basically I do think that you're in the right time to FOOM is what I've been calling it, right? And I think there's been a right time to join any industry when all the prerequisites have been in place and there's just a lot of building and a lot of impact to be had. I laid it out, like, how do you get to 1000x? You get the timing, you get the macro tailwinds behind you, which is there's a lot more compute. There's about 6 orders of magnitude more compute to be applied into AI, just based on projected improvements in both like the hardware as well as the spending.
And also models are shrinking, probably going on CPU, then even more compute.
Yeah, models on CPUs is usually a optimization step.
Yeah.
So there's a very, very wide, and it will be an increasing difference between the high-end models and the local models.
True.
So I tend to not talk about local models for that reason. I'm very happy to have one local model talk in our lineup, but you'll see that I don't emphasize it as much as you.
I maybe know which one, and maybe our future mutual friend can come up next time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, anyway, how you get to 1000x is you find 10x, 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 and you stack it.
Yeah.
So you find non-overlapping areas of 10xing. The way that you do that is you think about what an AI engineer can do and how they split it up, how to split up an AI engineer. So I laid out the three types of AI engineer we talked about, right? AI product engineer, AI enhanced engineer, and then the automated AI engineer. And all those things are in active research. Probably the most well developed is the AI product engineer, right? That's the people that make the ChatGPTs, the Midjourneys, all this, the copilots. Then the next would be the AI enhanced engineer, which is all the dev tooling. And then the most experimental is all the agent stuff.
On the tooling stuff, we saw two talks. One from Mario from GitHub.
Yeah.
And one from Deddy from Codium.
Yeah.
Both showing that this field is just getting started and heating up.
We could have had more. Yeah. But most of the time, most people are interested in building AI products. There was the whole section of RAG talks. There's a whole section of experimental AI UX talks. So that is definitely the deepest by far. But ideally, I want equal representation of all three. As this conference series grows bigger. And then finally, I think one thing I didn't get to spend enough time on was the soft skills. Because we talked a lot about tech tools, but we didn't really talk about the soft skills that actually make you 10x, 100x, 1000x. And so for the what I managed to cover in the talk was the way your algorithm for learning, whether you learn in small groups or you produce things that other people can learn, or you go home to your own cities and communities and you build your own communities for learning. And that's how I also think about growing this conference and this community, which is that people can sort of take AI engineer home with them, right? And run their own events.
So maybe let's dive into this one a little bit, because I think one of the reasons why you guys called me was to do like spaces.
Yeah.
And then Ben, who co-organized this, shout out Ben Dante, he's on stage, I think, but
he loves running that account.
It's
doing well.
Yeah, we can hear you a little bit from the phone. So shout out to Ben and the immaculate kind of team that ran this whole event. And when you guys called me, hey, come do spaces from here. And actually afterwards, it evolved into, hey, come interview some folks. So actually have a bunch of interviews. With video. And I've talked with many folks, and I've tried to curate the folks who are out of the city, out of the bubble, out of the maybe communities, and maybe folks that, I assume this was them because nobody else can do it. Thank you, Ben. And I've tried to ask them, first of all, what they think is an AI engineer, because they're out of the bubble. Maybe they heard it on Latent Space, maybe, but then basically. And many of the folks that I've interviewed, they basically repeated the same thing. It feels like being home among your people here.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't get to enjoy, everybody's working on the same thing. Yeah. So the concepts that they're working on every day, RAG and different toolings, LLMs and everything, they suddenly can hear this and just join the conversation and learn by osmosis. So the one thing I wanted to share with you guys, I don't know how much aware you were from this. The first day zero, when people just met here in the lobby and talked, and Jonathan met Gangadhar and Gangadhar met this one and this one, there was like so much knowledge transfer happening by osmosis. It was just beautiful. I think you guys allowed for that, and this definitely should happen more.
Yeah. And so this is the algorithm for learning, right? That those guys are working on things that I will never do, and it's okay. As long as we know each other, we're all part of this community. The value of the community grows exponentially compared to if I was trying to be the sort of blocking factor for everything. What I think Ben and I do is create a space so people can meet up. So yeah, I think that's the 1000x engineer talk. I want to turn that into a blog post at some point so that I get to go into a bit more detail. But we try to run all the talks very, very tightly. So I gave myself 7 minutes, and most of the other people had 18 minutes. So then we went to the other keynotes, and I'll just go high level first, and then we can go into details, right? So the other keynotes was 1, the Replit talk, 2, Torrent's talk from MotoGPT. Ron is actually there right now, he's sitting across from us. And then 3, the OpenAI talk from Simon and Logan from OpenAI on multimodality and showing off GPT-4 Vision and DALL-E.
I think for me, if I may, this is the most slept-on talk.
Yeah.
And the slept-on idea of this whole conference. Everybody's looking at RAG, evaluations, agents, and everything.
Yeah, I proposed a rag talk, like some kind of intro to using OpenAI with prompting, go through your cookbooks. And they were like, yeah, we're bored of all that. We want to show you the new stuff.
And I think it makes sense because we engineers will love grabbing tools and start doing something with them. And the vision stuff is not yet available via API to us, but definitely to them. And they showed off some incredible things. And I think some of us got action to GPT-4 vision already, so they understand the capabilities of this. But once we AI engineers get these tools in our hands, it basically creates a world where agents can join our physical world. This is why I'm excited about multimodal. And even though folks are thinking about multimodal as like double modality, right? Like maybe folks think about like multimodal as double modality, image and text. I think that this is only just the start, right? We already have image and voice. Obviously, you can talk to ChatGPT, but also multiple other modalities are coming very soon, shortly after that. And I think that this is, folks in the audience, if you hear this, start planning your agents so they'd be able to see very, very soon. Like this needs to be understood how much of a difference and how much of an update this will make for most folks. So definitely a shout out to Logan and Simon for bringing this heat.
Yeah. And we also had another talk on computer vision from Joseph from RoboFlow. So I was really, really happy. He's a very good friend. And then the final sort of keynote talk was from Flo from Lindy. He's been under the radar. He had a launch, but it's not really usable by most people. But I think the most well put together demo of what a good usable agent looks like today.
Also a beautiful delivery from Flo. I really enjoyed the speaking style. Absolutely.
Yeah. He may have worked on his talk the longest out of all the speakers.
Yeah.
Because the moment I asked him, he already was like working on it. The keynotes basically go give a brief overview of like what I think, right? So like the coding side, the open source AutoGPT side, the closed source Lindy side, and then the OpenAI multimodal side. So it's like a sample of things that inspire people as they start the conference. And so that was the opening block. And then I can go into the other stuff. So announced a few things, like one, the AI engineer state of engineer survey. And I think that when building the AI engineer ecosystem, we want to build out, these are the tools, these are the infrastructure pieces that no individual company will do, but us as the sort of central community group, whatever, we should just take this on as a public service. I got a few partners. I got Bar from Amplify as the survey organizer, and she's been doing it very well. I think we're about to hit 1,000 people. And then Sasha on AI Engineer Foundation, who is, which right now only has one project, but we hope that more people will contribute projects over time. Actually, this morning I got email about a potential second project.
Awesome. I'll just tell folks in the audience that me and Sasha had a chat about this yesterday, so you're welcome. She's in the audience. Hey, Sasha. Shout out.
Sasha!
And, we yesterday had a chat about the foundation, the Engineering Foundation, and we went in deep. And donations are welcome, and support is welcome, and sponsoring is welcome. So check out on her profile or on my profile. Definitely worth learning about how this is well organized, and it's going to help many developers to do open source.
Yeah, it's very important to have good open source community. And I think it can come from multiple areas. It doesn't have to be just AI Engineer Foundation. But as far as engineering focus rather than model focus, so open source community mostly focuses around models. That's where Luther AI comes from, News Research, all your buddies from Thursday AI, Alignment Labs. They mostly want to just train models together. But tooling,
just have fun with friends.
Yes. But tooling, AI engineer tooling and standards that everybody uses, that is quite an open space. And the agent protocol is effectively the first multi-company AI engineer project. It's got AutoGPT, what's the other one? E2B, GPT Engineer, a fair number of the bigger agent projects. I was actually surprised to hear this because I was in the space with Sick from E2B and the AutoGPT folks and some other people from those 7 or 8 like Vasek collected like the stones of all the AI agents together. And that space was full of people talking about basically problems. Evals, like we said, was one problem, but also how do these agents that will be ubiquitous among everybody, how do they talk to each other? And they started, I think E2B, shout out to E2B, they started with the agent protocol, I think. And I was really surprised to hear this, that Zane, I think, is working now on a protocol within the foundation, and now it's rolled into the foundation. I found it amazing. I found it incredibly important. And just shout out to everybody who's involved in it. Sasha is just leading it. Shout out to Sasha. I think it's important for us to understand that open source community doesn't just happen if you wait. People have to take leadership. And so I think that the foundation serves to exist to serve those projects. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
And the projects will always be led by a small group of people. That's how all projects get done. And we're not going after numbers. We're going after things that have impacts that people like to use, inspired by, makes their lives easier. And I think the primary ways it makes their lives easier is what Sasha presented in her talk, which is that instead of every tool having their own little platform that doesn't work with other tools, we should have mutually commonly agreed on standards that everyone can mix and match the tools. And I've been a student of industrial organization since I was an econ finance person. And I studied econ history, and there's an actual topic in academic econ called industrial organization. Every industry, when they start out, they always verticalize. Sorry, I little bit of a cough. And then it takes about a few decades before it horizontalizes and people find their place in the stack. So what AI Engineer Foundation has the potential to do with establishing standards and collaboration is to move that up by a few decades by creating a process for people to say, hey, here's a neutral body that's open source and nonprofit that's well governed, and everyone can agree to use this standard protocol, so that you can do things like swap in and out of different tools, but also build common tooling like observability tooling, like stuff that everybody has to share, and then middleware, like software where if you respect this protocol, all right, this middleware already works with this and it plugs into your existing system, and you don't have to write it twice. Effectively, it solves a m times n sort of combinatorial explosion problem into strictly additive, which I think is pretty helpful. Yeah, that's the potential of the foundation. It's just very hard to get it going. Very few people in the world have ever done something like this. And so we're very blessed to have people like Chris Anixic from the CNCF advising, because he was the original executive director. And so let's see where that goes.
I think it's a very important thing that you guys started, and everybody in the audience who has experience with this, reach out to Sasha, definitely. And everybody in the audience who made a thing or two and already maybe did an exit or two and want to contribute back to the open source community, definitely reach out to Sasha. All right, Six, let's continue. We have a lot to cover.
Yeah, so the rest of day one, Monday, was more or less the sort of serious LLMs in production talks. So the first one is obviously Harrison on LangChain and Langsmith. The second one was Pydantic with Jason. The third was Eugene building blocks for LLMs. And for him, it was more like a distillation of his 66-minute long essay on like existing problems in LLM products. And he covered at a high level like the stuff that you hear about on day two, which is like RAG and guardrails and stuff like that. And then finally, Linus with his embeddings talk, which more of like a data visualization talk, but it really shows you on a more intuitive level how to think about embeddings. It was like, for a lot of people, there was the first like wow moment, because until then you're mostly looking at products demos and text, like system diagrams of how to put these two systems together. But when you're a data viz person, you get to add colors and do canvas and really, really fun stuff. And the final message that I wanted to give people on day one was the idea that existing companies, like non-AI companies, can also become AI companies. And so we had this fireside chat with Brittany Walker, Chris White, and Brad Bischoff of Prefect and Hex on how both Prefect and Hex, they existed prior to this AI wave, but they pivoted really, really well, introducing Hex Magic and Marvin and going after this AI engineer market while still keeping their original value proposition, which I think a lot of companies are trying to do, but not doing very well. So I think these two are the sort of the best performers in that business. And obviously, arguably, there's a lot more money in brownfield than in greenfield, right? Like, I think the problem with that the people in the enterprise see with AI is that, oh, it's only for the kiddies, it's only for the hackers, it's only for the side projects. It hasn't really penetrated.
And then maybe they try a demo and something there is not prompted correctly, so they see something doesn't work, so they don't invest in this.
But also, like, I think, Hex and Prefect are not enterprises, but they serve fairly large companies, and I think that for them to be able to pivot the way that they have done is something that I think a lot of companies should think about as well. done.
So this is the end of day one.
Day one.
And now maybe it's a good point because we got many more people joining to just reset and level set for a second. We're in the lobby of Hotel Nico in San Francisco. I'm sitting with Swix, and we're basically doing a recap of the AI Engineering Summit that happened, that took place here for the past 2 days, almost 3 days, which had a lot of talks. And we're talking about the very curated aspect of how this talk was structured, which we're going to go through. And if you guys have questions for Swix, please put them in the comments for this. And I will definitely shout out everybody else who worked on this event because we're a very well organized, smooth machine that happened. So shout out Ben and the rest of the crew, Leah, and everybody who volunteered basically to participate in this event. I will also say this event was recorded, and shout out to you and Ben for doing a live stream, because for many of us who don't live in the arena, live somewhere else in the world, watching, and I think I said this to Sasha as well, the posts that you do on Twitter, even like stuff from Small House or stuff from hackathons or different things, they're like a window of those folks who don't have AI engineers by them. You throw an apple here in San Francisco, it hits like 5 AI engineers, maybe on the way down. It doesn't usually happen out there in the world, or not yet at least, because like it's a brand new thing. And many of the folks that we've talked to here, this is where it came from. And for many of them following you, following Latent Space, maybe Thursday Eye a little bit, this helps them to get a glimpse of this future we're building together. So you definitely set up something beautiful here. And now let's, with that, dive into day two.
Day two. I should mention the last part, one part of day one which was very important to us, was topic tables.
Oh, absolutely.
And then in the expo, right? So after the fireside chats, it was just a full day of talks. But we always want to leave room for people to talk to each other and have conversations that we don't even know about. The concept of a topic table was people gather on individual tables and talk about those the topics that are relevant to that.
I will share with you 2 tidbits about stuff that I heard from the crowd. One of them is Flo. Shout out to Flo. He said he watched all the events from his hotel room because he wanted to zoom in and didn't get interrupted. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. You come to an event, do you watch it? And the other one, Francisco from Argentina, he said he almost didn't watch any of the topics. He came here just to talk to people and to listen from them which talks he must absorb. He will watch all of them on the way back home.
He's pretty smart.
So 2 different approaches about how to consume a conference and a lot of that.
Good for them. Nice. I do think next year we want to leave more room for people to mingle.
Did we cover the next year part? Do you want to briefly say about this, or is this part of the second day?
Part of the second day.
Okay.
Okay. So we can go to day two. This is yesterday, and so we started the day with a keynote from. So the morning block is like the code intensive blocks, if as far as I could try to arrange it, leading into agents type stuff. Morning block was Mario, VP of products at GitHub. There've been many inventors at GitHub, Copilot, but he was like, I'm not one of them, but now I lead the organization. Apparently, all the inventors of GitHub Copilot, they created GitHub Copilot and then they left to start their own things. But Mario had a really interesting talk about just like the design principles that they think about when they build Copilot and stuff that they would recommend to others. I think far and away the biggest takeaway, and I honestly didn't know that this was going on, but they talked about how they passed $100 million in revenue for Copilot specifically.
For only Copilot payments.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for those who don't know, if you're not involved in the venture world, $100 million is most people's idea of, okay, you're ready to IPO. It's not exactly there. There's been sometimes if the market is tough, maybe 200. But like you're in that zone where like you have real revenue and people can actually start to price you on market sensitive metrics.
I actually found that very interesting. I saw this announcement. I was like, whoa, 100 million?
Yeah.
And also at the same
he said
time,
it was higher than that.
He said it was higher than this.
Yes.
And also at the same time,
exactly.
people on Twitter started talking about they're losing $20 per customer. There was ad.
So there was a Wall Street Journal that quoted a source familiar with the matter.
From where, sorry?
A source familiar with the matter.
Yeah. Saying that source familiar with
Copilot on some users in the early part of this year or last year loses $20 a month on some users. And so that obviously went through broken telephone chains to Copilot is definitely losing $20 per user for all users, even today. So assuming no improvement in costs and no segmentation in user usage level. I don't know. Nobody knows what is the truth of that matter. But Mario on stage did say that number was incorrect. And it's really up to the sourcing of I forget if it was FT or Wall Street Journal. The journalist knows or has to fulfill their own internal standard for is their source credible, and if it's just a random guy just spouting random stuff, I don't know how much weight we should put on that.
Yeah.
This is by the way, I'll throw it out there.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons I don't like to participate in the Twitter Spaces discourse,
Okay.
because how much of your worldview is informed by the headline that you just read? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if suddenly the whole thing you're talking about is AI is dead, nobody ever makes money on AI because look at Copilot is losing $20 per user. If that's your narrative, which like a lot of people are on my timeline today doing that, then I don't think you're going to do very productive things in your life, because you're just going to be whipsawed by headlines trying to make news. These journalists, these sources are just trying to make news, and these figures are just sensational. But who in their right mind runs a business that way? And I think to level up from that is to try to step back a little bit and maybe lose popularity, because I'm intentionally like not engaging in these things, which are very popular discourse conversations.
So that's interesting. And if I may, let me share my viewpoint on this,
Yeah.
because I have the saying, and I think I've shared with you, civility ends when the civil people leave. When they leave, there's no more civility. This is why I don't like the people say, we're out of Twitter, and then they come back because there's no one else of this magnanimity to talk to. And I also think that positivity needs to take place as well. And I think this has been what you saw in Thursday Eye when you guys called me over. This is what I'm trying to do with the community, because there will be shout outs of this magnitude. It's not the first time journalism says something like almost like sensational,
Provocative. It's almost like it's their business to get attention,
it's
right?
almost as their business to get clicks, right? And Twitter is such one machine that like people pick it up and everybody wants to say something. We all know this friend of ours, quote unquote, we will not name, who does the most like non-right things anyway. And so I think it's very important on folks like me, definitely with my small platform. And I would also implore you, for folks like you, to spread truth, positivity, and also correct ourselves when we're wrong. I think
I can be wrong too.
Absolutely.
Happily admit it when I'm wrong.
But I think absolutely like the community that now develops around this is the community that builds like a lot of the future. And let's connect this to the survey that Bar did, right? She showed whether or not doomerism exists within the AI engineer community.
Yeah, that's a fun question. If Anton, if you're listening, that question was because of you. Yeah.
So can you say what the question was and the results, if you remember?
At the end, it was actually a very serious survey, and then at the end, we just inserted some fun questions, right? And the fun question that Anton likes to give is, what is your P-doom, your probability of AI doom, that AI will end humanity? And we give people a range of like 0 to 10, 10 to 20, something like that. And something like 12% of respondents were at 0, which is interesting. And then I think the modal response was maybe like 25 to 50. And there were people all the way up to 100. And I would consider myself on the higher end, you do. I don't know if that is controversial or not. I think people applauded that we had lower PDO numbers than maybe
those applauds.
Yeah, nice.
That was the first one.
Yeah, and this is when I wrote the AI engineer post. The other thing that was in the air at the moment was Mark Andreessen's "Why AI Will Save the World" essay, which, for the record, I think is extremely highly overrated. Mark has been trying to recapture the glory of how software will eat the world for a while, and that was supposed to be his big AI piece. I got into a bit of a culture war there. But anyways, he got one thing right, which is there's a cottage industry of people who live entirely on AI fear and scaremongering, and that's how they get the big meetings with the government officials, and they run these. There's a big London AI safety conference where absolutely nothing will get done because no one in there has ever touched these models.
It's interesting that for those people, and let's maybe cap this and then move forward. Interesting for those people, both things are simultaneously true. AI is going to kill us because it advances so fast, and AI is dead because GitHub Copilot loses money, right? So nobody uses it.
Yeah.
Like simultaneously, they're like arguing.
We're so back and it's over.
Yeah, we're so back and it's over in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Whatever fits.
Yeah. Whatever fits your current shit. So okay, so I want AI engineer to stand for techno optimism, but not techno hype to the point of effective accelerationism.
We have to be responsible with
be specific, be responsible, do real stuff, and leave the sort of freshman dorm room conversations to like the 2 a.m. late night conversations. We care about that. One thing I actually often talk about is I have spent significant time with the whole AutoGPT team, and they all care about AI safety. And I think the AI safety people who shit on AutoGPT because they're like, oh, you connected the LLM to the internet, you must be the people that we must stop. I don't think they understand that. Yeah, the AI engineers also care about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, okay, so that's the digression. How do we talk about this? Oh yeah, this is the GitHub keynote. We haven't talked about the rest of the notes. Then we had Deddy from Codium AI follow Copilot, and this is on purpose by me because Codium is somewhat of a competitor to Copilot. But it does more. It does things in a different way. And it was a really, really insanely good demo. We only gave him 10 minutes and he crushed it. And he also ended with a nice shout out to his co-founder Itamar, who was our previous guest, who is on the front lines in Israel right now.
Let me just one more question about this specific thing.
Yeah.
And maybe a share, okay? I don't know how much you know this, but I was invited to the speaker's dinner, and there was quite a few folks who are Israeli related.
Yeah.
There was David from Bar as well. And
Simone is also...
Simone, he wasn't, or at least he wasn't seen there. But I'm also Israeli. My mom lives by the border. And our experience was a different experience a little bit from the rest of the folks. We just saw each other and we just gave each other a small wink and then nod. Is your family okay? And for many of us, this was like a contrast of the war that's going on. Our family is going, everybody is watching this horror unfold while we're here basically talking about building a future and with techno-optimism. So this contrast existed between those folks as well. So I just want to give a huge shout out to Deddy for
he took on that responsibility and he did it really well. Tastefully. I was worried that he would go on too long, but he did it just right. And I was very proud to have him on stage.
So could we talk about how he did this and what was tasteful about it?
I mean, so he did his work. He did what he came to do, which is show
an incredible demo and spotty Wi-Fi conditions with no backup. He told me he didn't have any recordings. He was like, with no safety net.
And then he ended it by saying, "There's all that's going on," but then his literal co-founder and my personal friend,
Itamar,
he's holding a rifle and risking his life for this very senseless conflict.
For folks just in the audience, just a visual picture. Then he shared an image that Itamar WhatsApped him with a rifle because he was called in reserve duty.
I feel like they should not have. They showed the Codium usage chart.
Yeah.
I was like, wait.
And in front of the rifle, there was a laptop open with the Codium usage chart going up and to the right. And I want to tell you my side of this. I felt that it was the exact right juxtaposition to show where we're here thinking about the future, up and to the right things, more and more usage. Maybe Codium specific was the kind of the funny part.
I would have just showed the Codium extension. I don't know about the usage of it.
However,
whatever. But up and to the right is good.
Up and to the right.
Optimism and realism.
Optimism and realism both at once, affecting lives of the people both. And we definitely need one more the other. And shout out to Deddy and Itamar and hopefully everybody there to stay safe.
I would describe both of them as stoic, and they just get shit done. I would never mess with them, ever. Don't mess with them. Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Then we had Matt Welsh, who is founder of Fixie. I think Fixie made a lot of splash in the early days of AI 1 year ago. Early days of AI engineering 1 year ago. I would actually contrast LangChain versus Fixie as peers and competitors, which is Fixie was closed source LangChain and cloud hosted LangChain, and then LangChain was open source LangChain. And since then, they've diverged a lot, right? Fixie, in my original chat with Matt, I actually chatted with Matt Feb in March, something like that. They were going after this sort of low code enterprise audience, which is more Zapier, and LangChain was probably not going to go after that. LangChain is very, very developer centric. Since then, I think Matt would agree with me saying that they have pivoted to a very developer-facing audience, which is why they sponsored us. When Fixie showed up, and they were our first sponsor. They were the first person to ever give us money for this thing.
Wow.
Which obviously is super helpful, and I'm very grateful to them because otherwise, someone needs to pay for the hotel.
Yeah.
But I was like, why is Fixie doing this? And I realized that they're not only very serious about developers. This is their whole future, and they have this new paradigm of LLM orchestration that they're calling AI-JSX. And I felt like he has a history, so I will tell everybody this because it's one of the coolest things. Matt was Mark Zuckerberg's operating systems professor in Harvard. In the movie The Social Network, when Jesse Eisenberg comes into class late, and then the annoyed professor asks him a question and he answers it and then leaves. That was Matt.
That's a good.
So like
cool story.
fairly, he's a good teacher, good educator, and also just very experienced
Yeah.
in just all sectors of technology. So to see him so entertainingly and wholeheartedly go after the AI engineer when previously he was focused on the sort of no-code enterprise audience was a big surprise to me, and a little bit of a validation of that AI engineers actually matter rather than going all the way to no-code. So I'll end it off with the sort of two UI UX agency type things. So one is Amelia, which is as far as I know, the first talk that someone from Adepts has ever given. So for people who don't know, Adepts is founded by a bunch of folks. I think 3 former authors of the Transformers paper.
Some of them left by now, I think.
2 of them left, Vaswani and
Nikki.
Shamar. Yeah, Nikki. And I think David Luan is running Adept now. But anyways, this first talk effectively from okay, what the hell is Adept doing? And we all knew it was some kind of they released some paper on like the Action Transformer a year ago, and then nothing since then.
Yeah, no,
and
they released the open source model
and Persimmon, which I haven't heard anyone
it was okay.
give a review.
So it was operationally good. So they had like a bunch of tricks and inferences.
I care about the products,
yes.
Right? Like so, and I'm like, okay, what are you gonna ship?
Yeah.
And Amelia like is working on that, but she was kind enough to give some thoughts into her design process. And she's always been one of the most insightful sort of thinkers in this space. Because before this, she worked on Copilot
at GitHub Next.
Yeah, so like just a incredible
Copilot
CV.
Brushes were like her idea, which I loved. Absolutely.
And the very slept upon GitHub Blocks, which hasn't really been widely released, but I hope it takes off. Anyway, I like the zoom in, zoom out basically that she did.
Zoom out was
and the ultimate level of zoom out is where agents start to come into the picture. Where you want to do data collection on this one website. Okay, how about 50 websites at once? And I like that it's basically making the agent invisible. I think the way that current agents that I'm familiar with do it today, they have this floating text box that you just type in your query and then it automates your mouse for you.
Yeah.
Which is fun, but you're also spending your time watching the mouse move around.
To watch it, no.
What you need is you make it invisible. And I think what she showed was that you can do that in a beautiful, elegant way.
I will just shout out Adept, Amelia specifically. She always done incredible things. Her blog is great. The Pen Pal, I think, is the product that she showed off with the zoom in, zoom out idea. Like incredibly innovative things in design and engineering space. So this cross is very, very interesting. I will shout out Adept. Give us something. We're waiting, Adept. Come on.
And then finally, Sam and Jason from New Computer. Very, very hyped duo. And so one of the challenges of doing this conference is effectively I have to invite speakers who I know are hyped, but I have no idea what they're going to present. And they don't even want to tell me. And so Sam and Jason were like that. They're secretive. I think mostly they're figuring things out as well. But I like their direction, which is very much let's take the AI out of just the text box, which Amelia is doing, but also just out of the computer itself. And so they had 4 demos, which are really interesting, all multimodal-ish. But in my mind, what seamless integration looks like. I've been describing what they do as a new kind of operating system, which Harrison really dislikes because he's what the hell does that mean? I don't know if Windows was the operating system that defined a personal computer. What is the next kind of operating system that defines our interactions with multimodal AI? Yeah. And I think Sam and Jason are probably one of the people that will work on that. And who knows, right? It could be them. It could be Humane.
I think they also mentioned briefly the new attempt from Apple to do like spatial computing in this like new operating system as well. Yeah. And they briefly mentioned while we're all watching this kind of unfold, that they're also gonna work on something interesting. Yeah.
And Jason is ex-Apple, so I'm sure he knows more than he lived on. So that's it. That was the morning block. Yeah. Any thoughts, questions?
It was great. No,
I know people are submitting questions, by the way.
Yeah, we have some folks said they hear the music with us. Sorry, the voice can say it's fine. We have a recording, but we're good.
Okay, cool. All right, and then so the last 2 blocks of the conference, the middle block was fun because this one was actually where a clear theme emerged. It's very hard to schedule speakers and try to maintain flow from talk to talk. This one, a clear theme emerged. All three are very good friends. So this was Hassan with the Weekend AI Engineer, Joseph with the Paint.wtf, and then Paul with Super Base Vector.
Yeah.
And all of them had this underlying message of build on a weekend, scale to millions, which is Superbase's tagline. And Hassan specifically has been, I try to basically have him be the representative of the weekend AI engineer, which is what I call it, right? That you don't need to spend too long to prototype. Like the whole point of AI engineering is that you can prototype very quickly with existing foundation models, ship it to production, get user data and sign up and interest, and then you modify and improve over time. And so all his projects are done in a weekend, and he showed off some of his stuff. I was hoping for more flash on V0, which is the very high.
I also came to the room just because of this. Hey, folks, can we talk about the V0 product?
They're not ready to launch it fully yet.
Interesting. I heard some upcoming rumors about.
But I think it's the next evolution after Copilot for front end, which is you prototype it this way. I do think that maybe bit more work needs to be done on including existing design systems, but this is all very valuable. I think V0 could be a second, like a spin-out company if Vercel wanted to let it go. Probably they don't because it's too valuable. But it has enough here that I think they should double down on that.
Besides V0, Hassan also showed a bunch of his side projects, weekend projects. And just shout out to Hassan. It was like very energetic talk. I talked to him afterwards. He commanded the stage. He moved around.
He's always like super nervous about speaking. And I'm like, dude, you have a giant Twitter audience. All your projects do super well. What are you nervous about?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think he holds himself to very high standards because Vercel has very high standards. He's doing very well there. Dan Joseph, and former guest on the podcast. Really, really love chatting with him. And he also included me in like the sort of drawing. And let's not give folks more than this. All talks are recorded, by the way. All talks are recorded.
You're more than welcome to go and check out. We've been talking about a recap for every talk basically in AI Engineer for the past 2 days. And if anything like piqued your interest and you haven't watched it, just know that all the talks are recorded already live. So you can go right now and recap and watch them.
youtube.com/ai.engineer. And I would like to feature more talks like that. The problem is that achieving the right balance between other types of foundation models and text and code is very, very difficult, because most people should use text as the universal interface, as Rune has so nicely pointed out, and code is a specialized form of text. So what's the right allocation to vision, sounds, smell, whatever, image generation? I had no image generation talks in this conference. Maybe DALL-E, but like I should have had something from the Stable Diffusion community, and I had nothing. And that might be the right call.
Clip was part of it, and Clip was
Clip is giving AI's vision, which I really like, because one, that's very topical with GPT-4 vision coming out, and then two, let
me pause you for a second. The demo that Logan showed was a incredible demo for folks who are into AI art, because it involved DALL-E and GPT-4 vision's understanding. So they literally had a comparison, something I didn't know was possible, where you can upload an image and have GPT-4 understand it, generate a prompt, generate this with DALL-E,
self-critique,
and then self-critique because they upload them the DALL-E output and the original picture and ask it to compare. So this is definitely a diffusion model that's going into the process. And I think it was a great demo.
And it's basically, if you think about it, the same process as code interpreter, right? Or advanced code analysis, or coding intern.
Coding intern, shout out to Simon.
Which is generate a first draft and then critique the draft and then generate it again. Same process. Nothing too crazy there. We did actually, in Latent Space community, we have a Discord, and the Discord has a weekly paper club, which we just finished. It's every Wednesday at 12 p.m., which is why I pushed back this Twitter space. We just did the 160-page paper on GPT-4 vision. I think a lot of people don't even...
It just came out recently, right?
I think a lot of people saw the GPT-4 vision system card, which is the safety card. It only talks about the safety measures that OpenAI did on GPT-4 vision. But there's a separate that did 160 pages on the use cases of GPT-4 and what you can use it for. And in our discussion, the two prominent ones that came to mind was OCR of screens. So you can do web agents or desktop agents. It's something I talked about in my original GPT-4 coverage in March. And then the second one is embodied agents in the real world. From the point of view of you holding a camera and facing this hotel lobby, and you say, okay, navigate towards the escalator. Oh, in order to get to the escalator, I have to navigate around this thing that's blocking in the way and then turn right and then turn left to go up the escalator. It being able to do that, spelled out in the GPT-4 Vision paper, I think was pretty helpful. I don't know how we got there. Anyway, multimodality is a thing, and I think vision is first, is what I'm saying. After text, what comes after text? And there's two candidates for what comes after text. One is voice and one is vision. So I featured vision this time. Next time I should probably feature voice.
We had some voice thingies that actually were
Yes.
funny from
Yeah.
Sam
Matt also had.
Yeah, and Matt also had the coffee shop example, which was great.
Exactly, yeah. But we should have more. Degram was here, and there's other interesting companies doing text to voice and voice to text. And I think we should probably do both directions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, that also led into Superbase Vector, because honestly, they're all just part of YC.
Yeah.
So they're just buddies. And PG Vector is part of the interesting discussion in the RAG world about whether or not you should have a standalone vector database. And I tweeted this on the Monday, and I got some discussion. And he actually also was trying to respond to other people, and I put him just in front of Chroma to have a little bit of
Paul.
Yeah.
Paul Koppel, CEO of Superbase.
Yes. Yeah. And anyway, TLDR, obviously Superbase will tell you that you don't need a separate vector database. And obviously Chroma will tell you do need a separate vector database. And it's just fun to have them on the same stage. What I think was interesting from the message of Superbase is like they are right now the ultimate platform for sort of your backends, especially as a small team that you don't need to go out to AWS and do decisions between 17 different types of databases. Postgres is all you need. That's the whole message. And the main critique of a non-specialized database was that it would be slower than a dedicated Chroma database, right? So Nirant K from Twitter had this chart that you're showing, right?
Nirant,
showing that Postgres PG Vector was much slower than I think Weaviate was the one that he was benchmarking. And then fast forward 5 months later, PG Vector shipped an update that showed it was faster again. Right? Like, you can fight on benchmarks all day long, but ultimately, where are you most productive? And I think Paul also had a really good secondary point, which people might miss, is that if you have a separate database to call to, then you're incorporating another round trip for your data transfer.
Yeah.
Right? If everything is done on the same database, then you have more. You're just making one call.
I actually interviewed Paul.
Oh, okay, yeah, you did.
For Thursday, for some of the conference interviews as well, and we went even deeper. I really like the way they're thinking about structuring this, and specifically, he calls out something I didn't realize before. As the models get smaller, the data sets get larger, and so they're thinking about putting the model near the data and not the data near the model to remove this latency and additional latency that we've talked about. And that's a very interesting thing to start seeing happening.
MinesDB is, it would seem to be the leaders in the space. And then there's another Postgres extension that's on my mind right now. I can't remember their name, but I had a really nice chat with the guy, and he just recently got funded by Amplify. Anyway, so there is a trend towards moving models to the database, but it's usually classifier models. Usually models small enough to run on your database cluster. It'd be very surprising if you ran an LLM on a model, which is possible, but
we're going there.
We're going there.
We're going to go to lunch afterwards. I'm going to talk about the smaller and smaller models.
Okay.
Me and you.
Great.
But yeah, let's move on. Just one thing that I want to shout for Superbase is that the PG Vector extension was like handled by one guy that wrote it not for this a long time ago.
Yeah,
and
Greg,
actually
who gave the workshop.
Yeah, and they actually helped, and he's now part of Superbase. And it's great to see them adopting the open source community as much. And shout out to Superbase, dear friends.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing I love about that message, which is, hey, if you want to work with us, just contribute something, and then we'll notice, and that's your interview.
That's a great way to get people in the door.
Okay, so then we go into like the sort of afternoon section, where this is much more getting into like the RAG and sort of production ready type of things. So one, the sort of JavaScript equivalent to Jason's talk from the previous side, with type chat from Dan Rosenwasser, who you already talked with before. Then our only fine tuning talk from Aryan. I was hoping for her to mention that she actually just wrote the O'Reilly book on LLMs in production. I actually wanted O'Reilly to do like a book signing. So one of my favorite parts of conferences is where you walk around, you're like, oh, what's this? And there's this table with all these books and the author's sitting there signing books and stuff. But they haven't printed a book yet.
So a lot of this happened for folks just with Twitter people, but not book people. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they haven't printed it. Anyway, she had a very, very, very good deep dive on fine tuning. And a few months ago, I was saying, like, where's all the fine tuning talks, right? Fine tuning should be some of the most important things that people should be talking about. I'm personally researching a lot of fine tuning, and not enough people are talking about that. They're still talking about RAG. I want some balance, basically.
I would invite those people to join Thursday Eye because that seems to be all we talk about often.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
Apparently, I have to invite Technium to speak.
Yes.
So I thought all these people were anon. So I was like, I'm not even going to try inviting them because I don't want them to dox themselves.
Yeah.
But if he wants to speak, go ahead.
So shout out Technium, shout out all the fine tuners. They're doing incredible things and push
very
these models.
fine tuners.
Yeah.
I'm in the Discord. I see the work they're doing. I just don't know if they want to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the RAG, 2 RAG talks, which is one was from Anton talking a little bit about the potential that vector databases can bring. But also for me personally, I'm most excited about their roadmap. Probably the most anticipated sort of DB as a service coming out. And they basically set a hard date of December. We have to hold them to that.
Good luck. Good luck, folks.
And then Jerry on Llama Index. But I think this is the clearest presentation of how Llama Index sees RAG that they've done. Because if you follow Jerry on Twitter, you see a lot of diagrams, man. Here's 9 ways to do X. And then the next day is, here's 4 different ways to do Y. And I'm like, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
But I think he's really worked on his messaging a lot. He just hired my former coworker, actually, Laurie Voss, the co-founder of NPM.
He was also here in the conference.
Yeah. And so he's helping them out in DevRel. And I think they're doing a really good. I think it's like whoever wins in this game is just going to do a better job of teaching their customers about how to do this well than everyone else. And I think Llama Index has a good education operation. Eating is also in there helping on DevRel. I don't think he's full time yet, but they are very serious about educating the market on RAG, that they want to own this. Yeah. And
I think the market needs education on RAG because literally people don't know what to do and how to do it. And because the evaluations are not yet very well fine-tuned, people don't often know how to improve what they actually have or whether or not what they have could be better. So a lot of education is needed, and I love that like Llama Index is taking charge of that.
Yeah, something I think about often though, that's all great, right? The challenge is still, can you build a large business on this compared to a database, right? Should you be a layer on top of the database or should you just be the database? And so far, the money has been with the databases, right? So it's unclear. So the equivalent in my world, I came from the data engineering world, the equivalent would be 5 trillion, which is probably now worth somewhere between $6 to $10 billion. The real money there. Yeah. But it's pretty much the only example. Yeah. So if Llama Index becomes the 5 trillion of this world,
let's go. Good luck.
Okay, then there's the last section, which is the open questions and like the stuff that I couldn't fit anywhere. I had one Mithun do what I think about as the local Llama talk, because all the others weren't really in that space, and he's the only one who shouted out the bloke. Shout out John Durbin, the bloke AI, who does incredible things for the open source community. Tom Jobbins. Oh, wait, no, not John Durbin. Yeah, I'm confusing. His real name is Tom Jobbins, right? I think. Okay, we're gonna have to find out. Somebody write in the comments. Just look at the bloke AI on Twitter. Anyway, and Georgie. I think I'm confusing two people. Yeah, like all the local Llama guys, all represented by Mithun very well. He has 0 Twitter presence, which I think is a win for us and very important to represent in the AI engineer community. Yeah, which is we're not just on Twitter. Mithun has clearly has an ethical opted out of Twitter for Elon reasons. But he's very eloquent, very knowledgeable, and surprised me because I took a risk on him. He's never given a talk, no online presence. Oh, and I was just like, this guy's abstract looks cool. Let's do it. So I said no to a lot of people to have this guy on, and he delivered, which is great. Shout out. And also, come talk to me about X. We're gonna need you to get on X. Or AirChat, get him on AirChat. Oh yeah, this is your other big social media. Absolutely. Okay, then guardrails. Shreya, very very clear elucidation of what you need to do for safety and in AI, and this sort of links to what Simon talks about after that. We were the first podcast to cover Shreya. And we're the first to have her talk, first conference to have her talk. And she's now founded a company based on their projects.
Awesome.
4 co-founders, so very, very interesting. And also, I noticed this. I think because I covered her for so long, I confronted her after the talk. I was like, wait, I noticed something interesting. When Shreya launched and doing the podcast, if you listen back to in our archives, I think around April, May, Guardrails was based on Rail. This stands for something. It's an XML spec for how you write structured responses in LLM output. And then if you fast forward to what she presented yesterday on her slides, Rail is one of 3 ways you can work with guardrails. I was like, I see a change there. So she was very, very convicted on XML before, and now she's not. And I think that is just pragmatism.
Good. I hate XML.
Yeah.
XML should die a very slow death.
No, man. No. Claude, Anthropic is XML is the future.
The
way you prompt Claude, we had Karina from Anthropic speaking on the Sunday. The way you prompt Claude is use XML.
The way you should train your Claude 3 is to remove XML for our benefit. Sorry, this is like a tiny thing for me.
No, I don't want people to come away with the wrong impression.
Yeah.
Claude uses XML as a structuring format.
Absolutely.
You don't actually have to use strict XML. You just make shit up in angle brackets. That's what XML means to Claude.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's not.
It puts it in its comfortable place to give you the best.
You know where the start tags and where the end tags are, and that's great. Okay, it's not a big deal. It's really, really not. Anyways, I think, and that leads right into Simon's talk, which is he obviously coins prompt injection. He has been working.
Simon Willis was with us on stage. Shout out, Simon.
We should invite him.
Yeah.
I don't know if can we record it? It's all recorded, right?
It's going to be. Let's do another one after this. We'll invite Simon Willis properly.
Basically, I wanted to give Simon like 40 minutes, but we didn't have time.
Yeah.
Anyways, Simon did his best, giving open questions to the attendees, which I thought that was the best way to end conference.
Yeah.
And I think the part that got the most laughs was when he fixed code interpreter naming. It also showed like how he hacked code interpreter to run Lua and like write C and all that stuff. And I think it's fun, but again, it's not an AI safety issue. This is more engineers like understanding the things that they work with and understanding the potential of what they can do with the tools by deeply exploring all sorts of weird corners. And I definitely want to encourage that.
So I was waiting for you to mention something and you skipped it. I want to roll you back because in between the 2 chapters, Ben came on stage and announced something. And Ben just like casually passing us by in the hallway here. So what did he announce?
Ben announced that we're doing our next year's conference. It is the sort of second format that we've been incubating. It's AI Engineer World's Fair. You can check it out at ai.engineer/worlds-fair. Maybe I should just call it Expo. This is easier to say. But it's going to be, I think, a lot bigger. At least 4 times bigger in every scale.
Wow.
I'm thinking 4 stages. I haven't talked about the exact number of stages with him. 4 times number of sponsors, 4 times number of attendees. And
where is it going to be?
We haven't officially announced the location because I'm doing a site visit tomorrow.
Okay.
But the intro video, intro video is beautiful and overlooks the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah. I know because he told me where you're going tomorrow just to check out. And folks, it's an incredible location.
Yeah.
If you guys,
I want to take it outdoors. I want to have a outdoor pavilion where we think we'll be able to get a space that people can fly drones and bring in their robot dogs and just have a lot more fun. Because I think this conference and a lot of conferences in AI and ML very serious. Very look at our code or look at our API. But sometimes you can actually a lot of smiles and also talk about interesting applications in real world objects. And I think that's where a lot of the metagame is also moving a little bit. So my September recap on Latent Space was talking about the AI Horcrux, the wearables of AI. And I think this time, I think in April next year, a bunch of people attending will be wearing one of these things.
Yes.
Right.
This time next year in April, that's a long time from now. We're going to see tabs, we're going to see pins, we're going to see vision.
Yeah, pendants. Yeah, and so I also have Kelly Peng, as a professor from Stanford. She has one of these telepresence bots that are autonomous. So I want you to walk around the expo and run into a bot. that you can talk to.
You guys heard it first. AI Engineer Expo or World's Fair.
Yeah.
It's coming in April, and you can actually sign up now.
Yeah. We opened up tickets for sale. The problem is it's called a blind bird, that we don't have a specific date and we haven't announced the location yet.
Yeah.
And we haven't announced the schedule, we haven't announced the speakers. But you can see the kind of quality that we have.
And with that comes a discount. And with that comes the fact that you're supporting a very important thing that's happening in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because it's not only a San Francisco thing. We have multiple people around the world join this and live here with just full of knowledge of how to take this to their communities.
Yeah. Great summary. And so the vision, I think, is twice a year in San Francisco. And then we're not sure about the other cities.
You've been invited to at least 5 places in the world.
Yeah, Berlin is probably happening.
In Croatia,
London's probably
Lisbon.
happening. Croatia's probably happening.
Okay.
I'll do something in Singapore just because I'm from Singapore.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm very inspired by like JSConf series of conferences that effectively built a brand and a platform and then let other people use it. Yeah. And the only requirement was you co-sign the code of conduct and you know what the community is about, so that they all have some sort of cohesive experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's nice. That's how you grow a community. Like, it has to be bigger than us for this to become an industry.
And it is bigger than us. It's just like they don't know it yet. So we need to bring it.
Yeah. And I think that's how you 1000x. Yeah, I think that's the announcement there. We're going to do twice a year, right? Like, I think this is important for me as well. In my mind, some of the best conferences I've been to, I didn't really care about the talks. I just walked around the expo hall, just talk to vendors and see what they're up to and learn about them. And actually, I went home with useful info just from that. And so I wanted to have a ticket that only does that.
Interesting.
Only expo. And apparently some of the other conferences, like the NeurIPS, there are sections where you can do that as well. I'm going to NeurIPS this year as well. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Nice.
Because one of our visions is like, we are NeurIPS or ICML for engineers, whereas those things are for researchers. So we'll see. Yeah, that's the best place to get up to date on that. And then, mostly after Simon's thing, we ended the day, we called out for people to do the survey. We called out for people to take the conference experience home with them, and then talks about the World's Fair.
That's a great recap. I think we went deep. Many talks from different locations, we think. So let's move on. Maybe just briefly, I think it's time for us to go to eat because I'm getting a little hungry. Just about the attendees here. So I've spoken with many, and it will be sent out on Thursday. You guys will post something. Many people from around the world. Many people came here for the first time to the US for this, which was always great to hear. Yeah. Many people follow Latent Space, and this is their only window to the world of like AI engineering. Yeah. And some surprising to me, not small amount of people follow Thursday as well, which I was like floored by.
Of course.
And I think talking to these people, I think we've talked about this multiple times. Everybody here works on something that will affect the rest of the world. Everybody here working on the guardrail stuff will be important for the rest of the world. I want to highlight for you one experience that I had, if you don't mind. You guys paired me with Stacy from the AV crew, from Access crew, and like a run and gun. Ben told me this concept called run and gun, where I'm with the microphone and she's with a camera and we're walking around. And as we're walking around, I'm asking people about engineer, what do they think, what do they think about the venue, all these questions. And we're walking around the window and we saw a Waymo car just zip by the hotel, right? I don't live in San Francisco, so even I haven't had a chance to Waymo like an incredibly...
Oh, let's take a car later.
Awesome.
I have a cruise. I don't have Waymo.
Let's go. Let's do cruise. And I just asked folks around me, and Stacey was like, hey, should we take a Waymo ride? And she's like, no. I was like, why not? I'm a bit afraid. And then it clicked to me, Sean Swix, that I'm in this event of people who are building the future, the pinnacle of innovation in San Francisco, one of the highest innovative cities in the world. And I'm walking almost hand in hand with a person who is not as advanced as us in this topic at all, and is also somewhat fearful of this change. Yeah. And I think, to me, one of the things that you guys happily had me do is walk around, be in the audience, be among the speakers, in the audience, among the speakers. I think it's important to realize that the stuff that we're talking about, how they are delivered to the rest of the world who are not building this, or maybe are afraid of change, or maybe are afraid of impressive change, who are falling prey to the doomers, like we talked about in the beginning of this, and folks who are like selling fear and basically like selling both sides of this. And to me, this was like a great reminder as I was walking this thing with somebody who like is supposed to not into this and not understanding change. And I think it's on us to also deliver this to not only developers, to also people who are like with compassion, understand that they're not there yet, but their world is about to change as well. and we are the ones who are changing this. I think this is important for the audience. I think it's important for you and Ben as we organize this thing to just realize that we will have to explain these changes we're building very fast to people who are maybe not as intuitive about this as we are, or not as following everything as we are. So this is just like a very interesting experience. I have a lot of contrast, the Israeli tech contrast that we've talked about, but also the AI advancement versus people who are not adopting as fast contrast as well.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. It's a reality of living in SF. I wish that there are more software engineers interested in getting involved in local government. I'm interested in someday giving back to Singapore, because I think you can only complain about governments for so long. If you've never run for government, or if you never taken part, then you'd have no right to complain almost. Obviously, the government is supposed to serve you, but if you have no representation, then you're not really doing the basic thing to contribute and give back.
I think you did say a lot about this, but in different ways. And to me, giving folks the tools to run this in different places so that those local communities will start forming around those places, because sometimes language barriers are a thing, and we're talking about language barriers. Sometimes just location is a thing. Not everybody can afford or be lucky enough to fly into San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so folks who are here, who enjoy this format, who more conferences like this, maybe a franchise will give the tools to do local stuff, they will then start those fireflies everywhere, like around the world.
That's it, man.
And that's what we need to do.
Such a simple thing to do, but
Simple
also I think people just need to feel like they're part of this community, and they'll make it grow.
Yeah.
I also want to say one thing about the sort of affordability. All the other AI conferences happening in SF, there's a bunch, right? We are one of many. We're the newest one of many. They all charge $1,500 a day. And then people complain to me about the price of our thing. We charge $100. And I'm like, I don't know, man. We could have gone higher. And people would have still come. But we want to make it accessible. World's Fair will be cheaper to join because we have so much more people. Yeah. That's great.
You heard it here, folks. World's Fair, the next event
for the expo.
For the expo.
Right. This is the whole vision of like, you could just come just to see the expo. Yeah. I would come just to see the expo because there are 100 of all these people there. That's great.
All right. Any last things you wanted to say before we close this out?
Help us fill out the survey.
All right, folks. Help us.
Google State of AI Engineering. We have promoted it across all our channels, Amplify and Latent Space, and our Twitters as well. We really want people to be represented. We want this to be the definitive source of what's going up, what's going down, what people are worried about, what should people build that nobody's building, anything like that. We would really love your response, and no one will reflect it.
All right, folks, if you enjoyed any of this or any of the talks, have you been in the conference or joining us remotely, fill out the survey. It's important. It won't take you that much time. And once you start participating in this, it'll be fun. It's like the JavaScript and CSS survey. At some point, you want to know the new tools from there.
It really helps people.
Yeah.
But most people are read-only. They don't actually contribute their data. And it's just like a 15-minute survey. So.
And hopefully the next survey will include Thursday AI as one of the sources to teach people about AI. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Swix, thank you for joining this. Thank you for building this for this community. I've taken a lot from this personally myself. I know for a fact that the people I've talked to, I think I've talked to maybe 200 people throughout these last 2 days. I know for a fact that they've taken a lot as well. A huge shout out to you. Shout out to Ben, to Leah, to everybody who worked hard on this. Shout out to this beautiful venue, Hotel Nico in San Francisco. And folks, follow Latent Space for more. The AI engineer thing came from there. Shout out to Alessio, our dear friend as well. You're welcome to continue participating in this community online on Discord. You're welcome to join Thursday AI as well. We're complementary to each other, and this is like a result of this. And thank you guys for building me up as well. I really appreciate it personally.
Yes.
And with that, I think we'll finish here. It's been a great conference. I'm looking forward for the next one.
Awesome. Let's go build.
All right. And now we're going to go eat because I'm super hungry. Maybe we'll take a driverless car in there. Bye, everyone.